Hey, welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. We're still on location at the moment, so there's a little bit of a background noise, including a little bit of a fountain. But I'm Dave G.
And I'm Kyle.
And tonight we're taking a look at a new, I want to call it a romantic drama, but it's probably not the best way to describe this movie.
Introspective drama.
Yeah, called True Things. It's a British film from director Harry Woodliff, who also co-wrote the film. And basically it centers around the character of Kate, played by Ruth Wilson, who has lived a kind of repressed life. She's curious about sex, but has been brought up in a kind of strict home. Now she works in what we would call here a Centrelink office, a job that was she helped get from her friend Alison, played by Hayley Squires, and I should say Kate's played by Ruth Wilson. And her world is kind of turned upside down one day when she meets one of the clients that comes into the centre, who she refers to as Blonde, played by Tom Burke. She kind of becomes besotted by him, even though he is not the most romantic guy and is probably bad for her, is probably the best way to put it. But it then tells the story of the way that her life is completely changed by Blonde, and what happens from then on. I found this to be a kind of bleak film. How did you find this film?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard watch kind of movie for anybody that's had real experience, anyone that's loved and lost, or been in kind of bad, one-sided, or even toxic relationships. I know in my review for this I wrote the word toxic relationships like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a hard watch for people like that, or maybe even people like that will maybe understand the characters more in it than others will, because Kate, she is making really bad decisions throughout this entire thing, all for this Blonde character. And I say Blonde because his character, I don't believe his character is ever given a name in the movie, Tom Burke's character. And yeah, she's making a lot of really bad decisions, but it's bad decisions that I found were understandable in some way for at least characters that maybe have gone through the same sort of thing that she's gone through, or people that have suffered the same hardships that she's gone through. It was an interesting movie, but definitely a hard take on the kind of subject matter that I found was really, usually when you see this sort of subject matter done in movies, it's done in a more comedic way. Like, this movie actually reminded me a lot of Bridesmaids from 2011. Even though that was a thoroughly comedic movie, it was similar in the same way, because what Ruth Wilson's character in this movie is doing on the outside would almost seem comedic if it wasn't so sad and self-depreciating. But it was an interesting movie, at least for that. What did you think of it, David?
Yeah, I found it interesting because since I've watched the film today, I've been reading some of the comments that people have made on IMDb, and most people have kind of been saying that they didn't enjoy the film because Kate's character should have known better. But that's not how life works. Like, we've all known people that have been in relationships with people that are bad for them. I've been there myself. Like, I can look back at one relationship now and go, man, what was I thinking? Like, why did I stay in that for so long? So I don't think you can judge the film on that. Like, you've got to judge the film on the story itself. Like, does the story work, and kind of thing. And I think it does. Like, this is almost like a cautionary tale about what can happen to somebody if they become besotted by someone that's bad for them. There's a great line in this movie where Kate's telling her grandmother about this guy that she's met, and her grandmother uses the line, "Oh, you're besotted by him." Like, and she says it in a nice way, but it actually is a bad thing that Kate is besotted by this guy. And I think I like the fact in one way that the director and the co-writer Molly Davis have made this film a film where the audience can see what is wrong with the relationship. So often with these movies, they'll do that twist towards the end where the person will find out, oh no, he had a family all along, or he's been cheating on her. But I kind of like the fact that with this movie, you don't fully see it from Kate's point of view. I mean, as soon as this guy walked into her office and started talking to her, in my head I was thinking, man, this is a bad guy. Like, you don't want to get involved with this guy. So I kind of like that, because normally they would have had like a really good looking actor charming the pants off her literally, and then the big reveal would be later on in the film, like that, no, this guy is actually a bit of a prick. I kind of like the fact that in this one, everyone around her, including the audience, is like, no, what are you doing? Like, I know you shouldn't judge people by appearances, but the guy's not even what you would kind of call like a drop-dead gorgeous guy. Like we were just saying before off air, he's got a bad dye job on his hair. He hasn't got a lot going for him leaving. Like, it's not like he's rich or anything like that. In fact, he's just fresh out of prison. Like, there's nothing about this guy that people would normally go, oh, he's a real catch. So I think that actually makes the film more powerful in that it shows how some people can just fall for the wrong person, and there's no real reason for them doing it other than, I guess, chemistry in a sense.
Yeah, because Tom Burke in this movie, he's presented
bit of a slob.
Yeah, he's definitely like, he's a bit of a slob, but I guess that kind of goes more towards Kate's Ruth Wilson's character of Kate, because she's that, I guess, lonely and bored and also horny. I mean, the movie it starts with her having basically a wet dream.
Yeah.
And Tom Burke, he's really just the right kind of guy at the right time to take advantage of this kind of this person. And there's really nothing like. We watch the movie. We see their relationship and their story and what Kate goes through, and there's nothing really impressive about what this guy is bringing to the table, but it's enough that you can still understand why she would maybe fall for somebody like that. I guess it really has. It says something about like that she definitely has a low self-worth about her, and that's really what causes it. That, well, Tom Burke, he's brilliant at in this anonymous role. He like exudes a certain amount of confidence and charm, and also a boyish cheekishness, but he really is kind of a turtle asshole, at the drop of a hat. And while we do kind of look from the outside looking in, we also don't see anything of his story, which I appreciated. We don't actually see. I mean, I don't even believe we're given a proper name for this character. He's just blonde, and we don't. There is a part in the movie where Kate she almost like tracks him down, almost stalks him at one point, but we don't even see if that's actually his address.
Yep.
And I like that about the movie. The movie really went into just how low a character like Kate feels at that kind of a midlife crisis scenario, and how somebody like this blonde character can really take advantage of something like that.
Yeah, and if anyone heard a weird noise, then a bat just flew over us and did a little sonic noise. So, but yeah, I think that's one of the things I liked about this movie was that it was very natural. I mean, this is not the kind of film that you would expect to see with characters that are body beautiful kind of thing. In fact, they kind of uglify Ruth Wilson a little bit in this film. Like they kind of really make her look downtrodden and stuff, but they do it really well. And I think the thing that really I liked about this film was the acting in this. Like, I thought Ruth Wilson did a really, really good job with this film, but also I think Tom Burke does an amazing job too. Like, it's not easy to play, like, as you said, a character that's basically an asshole.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of intimate moments between them as well. So I think the film actually does work quite well, especially with their performances and just how natural Harry Woodliff makes this film. She really makes this film feel like you're there and watching these two. I think the fact that both of us had like those really passionate views of, no, this guy is wrong, I think that actually says a lot about the writing of the film, because sometimes you watch a film like this and you're kind of like, he's a bit of a prick, but I don't really care. Whereas with this, I found myself getting angry. So I guess in a sense that does show that the screenplay and the directing of the film does actually work.
Yeah, like movies like this. Speaking of Ruth Wilson's character, Kate, movies like this are kind of. It's a really brave role for an actress to take on, because it's almost like the same kind of thing as a Bridget Jones' Diary kind of thing, where you have it is an attractive actress, but it's a role that really would play on anyone's self-confidence. There's several scenes in this movie which are just really cruel, like where Kate, in her role as a friggin' bats all around us. Kate, in her role as a what would you say her position is in this movie?
She's kind of like just a Centrelink caseworker.
Caseworker kind of thing. Yeah, she's dealing with people that are calling her ugly, and there's some really horrid things said about her in this movie, and there's even coming from this blonde character himself.
How harsh is that line when he says to her, "Your breath stinks, darling"? It's like
what? Like, it's like, why even say that? You know, like, and it's in a scene which is, it's truly just her trying to give this guy a good night, and and you don't know why. It's like, why is he acting like such a bastard? And I really appreciated that it was presented in this way. You don't know why the guy's a bastard. I kept expecting some kind of links to organized crime or something to pop up, some kind of like British gangster thing, and it never really does. And that's great, because that's not what the movie's about. It's not a gangster film. It's this relationship movie, and I think like, while Tom Burke is great in the movie for playing such kind of a, I guess Tom Burke and Ruth Wilson, they both kind of play like brave. They both have these kind of brave roles, because Tom Burke doesn't really have a lot of character to work with, at least not that comes out on screen.
And there's nothing redeeming about that character either.
He is such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
and Ruth Wilson, like she's far from being an unattractive woman herself. In this movie, she's really, like, there's a lot of negative things said about her, and it's like, I always kind of find myself appreciating when an actress has balls to play a role like that.
Yeah. And like, I think the power of Tom Burke's performance comes from every time he said the word darling, it really grated with me. Like, and he would say it all the time, like, "What are you thinking, darling? How you going, darling?" And it was like, oh man, like the fact that he was able to play that role in such a way that it really grated with me and made me hate him even more. I think really went to show just how good his performance was, but it also, I think, also shows how good Ruth Wilson is, because a lot of the times you would watch a movie like this and get angry with her characters, thinking, how could you be so stupid to go out with a guy like this? Whereas for this entire movie, I felt sorry for her. Like, I understood why she was going out with this guy, because he was the only guy that showed her attention. And I felt sorry for her rather than feeling angry. So I think it really does go to show the power of the performances in this film, but the power of the writing in the film as well.
Yeah, something that I also really appreciated as well, and I mean, when I did see this movie, it was kind of a novelty, although maybe not so much of a novelty because I've seen it in several films in the last couple of weeks. The aspect ratio that this was filmed in was a 1:37:1 Academy ratio, which is kind of like a square box, kind of like a full screen. What pretty much everything was filmed in before widescreen became a thing, and that's what this movie is in. And I mean, it's the same kind of aspect ratio as like the Australian revenge film The Nightingale was filmed in, and also other movies like Grand Budapest Hotel. And I appreciate it when movies do that, when they specifically film themselves in sort of an odd aspect ratio such as that for a purpose. I've seen it in a lot of other movies since this, where I just feel like maybe they could have just filmed it in traditional widescreen. It didn't really bring anything to the story. In this case, it really did make the film like you really were viewing the world through like a tunnel vision.
It made it intimate, I thought.
Yeah. Like you're viewing the film where there's parts in the movie where you almost feel like you should be seeing more than you are. And the fact that it's filmed in like a 4:3, and you see this if you see this on a big screen, or now you see it on a regular screen, and there's these black bars at the side of your screen, and it's like, well, there's stuff missing at the side. It's almost like like a tunnel vision, kind of an inebriated vision of what you would see, I guess, if you're kind of drunk. And it may be distracting to some viewers, but I appreciated how uncomfortable it made me feel while watching it. Kind of like, because the entire movie, while we are outside onlookers of Kate's story, we are seeing things from her perspective. So that's something that I appreciated, and how it for Kate, she's not seeing things properly, like she's not seeing the full picture. She's kind of just a tunnel vision. Oh, here's a guy that likes me, I guess I'll have sex with him in a car park. And even though he's a complete bastard. So I really, it was one of the movies where I really appreciated how it was shot as well.
Definitely, like I said, I think it adds a real intimate feel to the film, seeing it in that style, which I think it also did with The Nightingale as well. It made everything much more graphic and in your face. So I guess the big question now is, what are you going to give this one out of 5, and why?
I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5. It was based on a novel, and I feel that maybe the novel might have gotten more across with use of internal monologue and such as this. This movie doesn't feature any voiceover work at all I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, and I feel like on a novel it might have included a lot more of that, and that might have worked more for the story, because in this film there's a lot of moments of just complete silence, and that's fine, but I think maybe the story could have benefited from that. I think it's more a movie about what we subject ourselves to when we have such a low self-worth. We have such a low opinion of ourselves. Whereas I think a lot of people might just look at this movie and see it as the emptiness of a purely sexual-based relationship or something like that. I think it was a more interesting look into a character, what somebody would have to be going through in their personal life in order to actually subject themselves to something like this. But I just think that maybe a little bit of it was missed in translation from the page to screen. So that's what I'll give it.
I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 as well. I really, really like the way that this film is written. I love the two performances. I think the two performances really carry this film to a whole different level, but I also like the fact that in a lot of ways this is an anti-Hollywood film. In that it's not glamorizing romance or anything like that. It's making a comment about what happens when somebody falls for the wrong person, and it also shows why somebody might fall for the wrong person as well. So I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. Kyle is giving it 3.5 out of 5, and that's it for this episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. Sorry about the background noise, but we just thought that we're so far behind with the films that we want to bring to you guys at the moment that we thought, you know what, we've got a few hours in between media screenings today, so we thought we'll come out on location, we'll record a couple and try and catch up over the next month or so on all the films that we've seen at the different festivals and things, and get them to you, and you get to hear a little bit of Melbourne background noise just as a tram ding. So that's it for this episode. I'm Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy.